Atheus is an extremely powerful flying mage that you should be using in your lineup. Stick around in this video for the very best talents, pairings, and artifacts for this very powerful epic hero. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And Atheus is an epic hero that I thought would be very powerful, so I expertised him. That's maxing every single skill very quickly in order to see exactly how good he would be, and I was not disappointed. Reports where I used Atheus in the combination performed just as good as any of the other mage combos I was running, and that included when I was running my talented, expertised Lilia. That included when I was running Waldir. I had a really great Velen in the lineup, 5/5, 2/2 at the time that I was fighting. Atheus hangs with the best. So why is that? In this video, I want to start by reviewing his skills, and this is why, by the way, he is extremely good. From there, I want to give you some talent options if you do use him as the primary, and lastly, we'll talk about the artifacts, which are very important. And I have learned by using not so good artifacts which ones are actually worth using. So let's start with the skills. What does he do? And his active skill is very easy to understand. When you reach 1000 rage, you'll use your active skill and deal 800 magic damage factor. Okay, well that's pretty easy. You need to use magic units when you bring this hero out onto the field. Now that means you have several options. If you're the League of Order, you can use your Celestials, and also you've got your basic magic unit. So if you're League of Order, that's Vestals. From there, we've got the second skill, which is extremely powerful and is a part of what got me excited about this hero. You have a 30% chance to grant your Legion 60 rage. That is a lot of rage, and that is a very high percent chance of it happening. That means every turn that you attack somebody, you're going to have a 30% chance to get that extra rage. This is a very powerful thing in what I call rage engines, picking lots of skills and talents that give you more and more ways to get rage that are very synergistic with each other. We'll talk more about that when we get to the talent section. From here, you've got 10% HP. I love an HP boost, but in addition, if you have entirely flying units, all healing you receive is increased by 15%. This is the only flying specific thing related to Atheus. A lot of people look at him and they're like, I can't use him because I'm not using flyers. No. He barely does anything with flyers at all. Seriously. The next skill makes it so that Atheus's Legion gains 20% march speed and 10% less damage taken. That is freaking amazing, man. That skill is extremely strong. The final skill is the Awakening. Makes it so you have a 30% chance of healing when you are directly targeted by an enemy, when you are attacked by them. That's a healing factor of 400 and can only be triggered once every 10 seconds. I don't think that's very amazing. Not really exciting at all. There'll be a lot of times where nobody's targeting you at all. And so I will say you don't have to freak out about having flying units because all it's doing is increasing your healing. And the healing may not even happen for a lot of the time because you might be hitting things that can't hit you back. Why is that? Because Atheus is a flying hero, as designated by the little wings up by his name. So this is important because you can use Celestials and get into positions where certain units won't hit you back, or because you're attacking from range, they may not be hitting you anyways. Hitting, in this case, qualifies as directly targeting you. And if they're not directly targeting you, then this won't trigger Redemptive Healer. Okay, but when we get to the talents, this is where things get really spicy. That is because he has magic, PvP, and mobility of all things. Now, I want to start by showing you the talents I personally used when battling in the most intense server in the game. And here they are. I did use them as the primary, so I was fighting specifically with these talents. So, foundation talents are very simple to understand. You're going to get March Speed and Health, very obvious. Balanced Heart gives you 1% attack and 5% March Speed. From there, I really wanted to go into the PvP specific tree. The PvP tree is giving you attack, but then also March Speed. And then because I know we're already generating lots of rage, I want more rage engine. In this case, I'm taking High Spirits. 10% chance to grant my Legion 50 rage on a normal attack. So now I have 2 ways to get rage when I directly target an enemy, and both can trigger in the same turn. From there, I took Army of Valor. This is very proactive. I want to be able to do more damage to my enemies, and this I found to be fine. Look, are you going to be in combat for 30 seconds to get the maximum benefit of this? Sometimes, yes, but not all the time. From there weren't many very good options, but I love March Speed, so I took it. And then in the next row, I took 1.5% more all damage because all damage is amazing. And we'll talk more about why I did that when we talk more about the pairings as well. I went with Atheus and Thea. Thea doesn't do skill damage, so this is a great way to boost just all my damage dealt. From there, I took Stubborn Fighter. Because I'm kind of running it down in player versus player combat, frequently anyways, I will get below 50% strength, and that means I deal 3% more damage when that happens. Lastly, I went with Breach Blade. When your Legion launches a normal attack, they inflict a defense break on the target, reducing their defense by 10% for 5 seconds. I love this effect. And it's so powerful that it can only trigger once every 30 seconds. It's really good at making it so that everybody hitting the same target can do more damage because their defense has been reduced. By the way, if you're getting value from this video and you like hero guides for Call of Dragons, consider subscribing to the channel. I will have a hero guide for every hero in the game. And I made over 2,000 videos about the predecessor to this game, that's Rise of Kingdoms. So I think you'll get a lot of value from subscribing, and thank you for honoring my commitment to getting you the best videos possible by throwing a like on this video. Thank you. We look down at the magic tree, and this is where I round things out. We talked earlier about a rage engine, and this is where it happens. Foresight. When you cast a rage skill, your Legion has a 25% chance to get more rage. So now you see how it all comes together. I have lots of ways to gain rage from my normal attacks, both from skills and talents, and when I actually use an active skill, I have a chance to get more rage. That's the rage engine aspect. We have the normal attacks and the active skills generating rage. From there, magic attack is what I wanted to take. Again, I wanted to be able to pair with Thea, who doesn't do skill damage, so I wanted something that would work universally, and magic attack does. And lastly, I took Magic Maelstrom. When your Legion is entirely magic units, they gain a defense mitigation before casting rage skills, mitigating 10% of the target's defense for 5 seconds. So this is like a personal version of this over here. Breach Blade is a debuff on the enemy. If I'm not mistaken, Magic Maelstrom is a buff onto yourself. Can trigger once every 30 seconds, so you can get the benefit of both of those abilities. That is the build I use for PvP, and again, my reports were very, very good with Atheus and Thea, equivalent to the reports that I was running with Velen and Waldir together, equivalent to the reports I was getting when I used Lily and Hosk together. It was a great combo. Okay, now from here, there are many other builds you could run. I want to give you 2 other options, and we'll talk about which you might use and when. And the thing I want to first highlight is a tank-based build, and you might be like, wait, angel tanking? Like celestial tanking? Is this where it's at? And the answer is, if you are a T5 player especially, yes, you could do this. And even if you aren't a T5 player, you will notice that Thea, who you would pair with, Atheus Thea, both flyers, are really defensive with their kits. They have a lot of tanky capabilities. We'll review that more in just a minute, but I saw players do this, and it worked really, really well. Now, to do this, I moved more onto the magic tree, and the magic tree is very powerful, by the way. So we took the same foundation talents, and when we moved it on the magic tree, instead of attack, I, of course, went for all-conquering, taking less normal attack damage. When you are targeted, you take less damage. From there, we took Magic Maelstrom again, but now I went for the Orb of Protection. When casting rage skills, your Legion has a 25% chance to gain a shield factor of 200. Look, it ain't much, but we already are going to create a rage engine, okay? That means I'm using more rage skills, which means Orb of Protection gets more interesting. That's when you would take this sort of a talent. This, by the way, is also basically a Thea pairing. I mean, we're moving all in on Thea if we're going with a tanky build. I wouldn't try to run this with other sort of combinations, okay? From here, we go and we take Shelter, increasing your Legion's shield granted by 5%. Am I fully convinced this is the best talent? Not necessarily, okay? Not necessarily. but it's the one that I took because I didn't want to take more hero skill damage. I'm trying to get tanky, okay? So there weren't a lot of options here. From there, I took Bolt from the blue. This makes it so that when you cast a rage skill, your Legion gains haste, increasing your march speed by 20% for 5 seconds, triggered once every 10. Okay, because we have this rage engine, we're just moving all in on abilities that benefit from using your skills very frequently. The other options over here, we're making it so that I deal more damage over time. Well, we don't do damage over time with this combo. Also, Cry Havoc makes it so when you're less than 50%, you do more hero skill damage, but like only one of my heroes in this combo does hero skill damage, so I didn't want to do that. The final thing that gave me the tankiness I wanted is Elemental Boost. This makes it so that when you cast rage skills, once every 10 seconds, you can have this effect trigger, and it gives you 15% health for 4 seconds. I'm telling you, I saw people make this combo, and they were so stupidly tanky. It was crazy. I think this is how they were doing it. And lastly, in the PvP tree, I basically did the exact same thing. I still wanted to generate rage over here because the rage engine is powerful. Remember, generating rage means more skill activations, which means more Thea shields, and it also means more potential shields over here, all right? When casting rage skills, your Legion has a 25% chance to gain a shield. The only thing that is a little weird about Orb of Protection that I need to figure out is I don't know if this stacks with Thea's shield or if only the stronger shield prevails. So there is a little bit of homework that I still need to do, and if I learn something important about that, don't worry, I will update the pinned comment as soon as I have that information for you. So again, going back to that PvP tree, the final swap I made was over to Luck of the Draw. When your Legion launches a counterattack, so someone has directly targeted your march, you have a chance to reduce all damage taken. That's like directly on plan for making a tanky march. And I think that you can do it. It's far more reasonable than you might expect here. So Atheus, Thea, this was the build that I think was really tanky that I saw in the field. From here, final tree, this is a mobility tree. This is if you want to run around and just ambush the hell out of people, and you can do that. One thing to keep in mind is that you can't ambush through cities. Flying units cannot reinforce another player's city or a rally, which I thought was super surprising. So what you can do, however, is you can sort of go through a resource node. And so I'll explain that in just a second. So the base of the tree is the same, but now we go into mobility. Taking March Speed, another March Speed ability, Predator. When you launch normal attacks, you have a chance to gain haste, which increases your March Speed. We take more March Speed, and when you leave a node, you get 20% March Speed and 5% hit points for 5 seconds. Solid pickup. From there, I wanted to take Plan B. When casting rage skills, your Legion gains haste, again increasing your March Speed by 15% for 3 seconds. And then instead of going for the follow-up ability Sneak Attack, which I find fairly lackluster, I went instead for the all-around good Hasty March. Another 5% March Speed and 1% total attack. From there, we grab Maneuverability. This is such a cool talent. When you're super low, your March Speed increases by 20%. A good way to get away from a bad situation. Below 50%, 20% more March Speed makes you very hard to catch. And on the topic of very hard to catch, I like Passing Shadows. When your Legion casts an artifact skill, you gain Haste and Shelter, 50% March Speed boost, 15% defense boost, lasts for 10 seconds. It's good for chasing, it's good for running, it's good for engaging in a fight where you boost your defense. It's very, very good. From there, I went into the magic tree. And there's only one thing in this build where I'm like, this is too much March Speed, maybe. I took magic speed. Now, you'll notice that for 5 points, you actually get 15% speed as opposed to the 10% you get over here. That's a big deal. It all depends on how much punch you want versus how much you're just kind of ambushing much weaker players. If you're actually going to throw down with some people that are stronger, I think you've got to take Foresight because this is a really cracked ability, very good. From there, I took Magic Attack and lastly, Magic Maelstrom. Okay, so a really solid build all around, I think, but obviously I'm using the PvP build and I got great results with this exact build. But who can you pair with? Well, if we look at the hero pairings, the most obvious option is Thea. She's a flyer. You could use her as the primary if you preferred her trees, but I really like the magic tree on Atheus. I think that the Foresight ability, generating rage, is really, really critical with what he's doing in his kit to make a rage engine. So I think Atheus Thea is the way that I would run that particular pairing together. The other sort of place that I put Atheus that I found extremely good is as a secondary to literally any of the other meta mages. So Lilia with Atheus did amazing. Of course, she benefits from Rage Gen and the stats that Atheus has. 20% March speed, bro, and 10% less damage taken on Atheus is insane. Yeah, pairing with Velen did serious work. And yeah, pairing with Waldir did serious work as well. All of these were really, really great pairings. In each of these, I preferred to use the other hero, that's Lilia or Velen or Waldir as the primary, although I will point out that Waldir and Atheus have the same sort of trees, so I don't actually have a strong stance on which of those two would be the primary in the Waldir-Atheus combo, okay? Now from here, are there other options? You know, when I look to the other heroes that you have, there is one other obvious choice that I think is very good, and I haven't used it, and that is Alwyn, okay? Alwyn, I would probably use as the primary for the control tree, and then Atheus is the secondary. That helps you generate more rage. The March is doing all single target damage, which I don't love, but it is still really strong. Theoretically, you could pair with Pan. I suppose that works. You'd have like a healing combo with damage. I don't know. It doesn't excite me compared to the other combos you could make, although it is fairly tanky. And the other hero you could pair with that I feel like just won't actually be an option until a couple seasons down the road is if you maxed out Indus. Okay, Indus does solid debuffing and also healing over here. Okay, she also is making it so you have more hit points, and you know, I mean, I don't know, until you can actually max her out, I just don't think it's an exciting conversation. Okay, your most obvious options are the first ones I was sharing. Thea, you can make a flying march, and then the meta mages, boom, boom, and boom. Okay, from here, we got to talk about the artifact options. And the artifact options, I think, are pretty standard. If we look over here at what you could use, at the legendary tier, the most obvious choice is going to be the Phoenix Eye. It does a lot of damage. It's really powerful. This is, you know, your best artifact in your very first season for doing big area effect damage. High rage cost on it, but it's really good. I will talk about a couple artifacts I think are okay, but you probably shouldn't use. One of those is the Springbird Feather. I personally have played around with this. I thought it was really cute at times, our ability to chase people down or get that nice march speed boost to get to where we're going. But once you actually get to the fight, I just often felt like, God, I wish I had a big damage ability, because I'd get hit by their damage ability and it would really suck to not have something to fire back. In addition, I also felt like the tier of Arbin was really weak. This would make for a more tanky march if you wanted to low-key mage tank. And I'm not saying mage tanking is like this thing that everyone should aspire to do. But what I'm saying is that among all the mage marches, if your enemy targets Athea Atheus, they are wasting their time. It's the worst thing they could target. It's so stupidly tanky. And if you did throw a tier of Arbin there, I mean, it would be very tanky. I just don't like the tier of Arbin because I think it's imbalanced in a bad way. The healing factor is way, way, way too low. The number of targets is way, way, way too low for what this is doing. I mean, I found that with something like Shadow Blades hitting, 5 targets, I'm doing like 10,000 damage a target, okay? But the math on the healing for Tier of Arbin is so bad. It's 500 per second, which typically ended up being about 500 worth of healing. And it lasts, for 4 ticks. So even if I hit the maximum number of targets, I've done 8,000 healing, let's say, as opposed to using something like this right over here, the Phoenix Eye. I mean, you'd just so much rather have the damage. It's just way better. And I think something is funky there. I think that something is not quite right with Tier of Arbin that might deserve a look for some balancing, okay? Staff of the Prophet is not really a thing you would use either. Big effect here, not what you use for standard combat. You equip that for a one-time operation. So your only legendary artifact, is what I'm trying to say, is the Phoenix Eye. That's it. That's the one artifact you're going to use, and it's very, very good. Now, that said, at the epic tier, you've got one other great option as well. That's your Magic Bomb. Magic Bomb is way better than people think. I probably should be using this. I probably, before my next fight, will dust this up and use it, depending on how many mage marches I'm going to bring. Magic Bomb is really, really great. That's your sort of epic option. I don't think you need a freezing ring, okay? Surrounding yourself in a defensive barrier. This does give you hit points and magic unit defense. I appreciate that. I just don't think this is where you want to be. I feel like punch is really kind of the name of the game here, okay? The other option, I suppose, is like a Spirit Bangle. It's very utility-based. Do you really need that? I mean, I'm just not that hyped about it, man. Damage is where it's at, and your budget option in the Magic Bomb is really very exceptional. I need to be using this, and this comes from personal experience, using a bunch of the legendary ones just to see how good are they. I think they're not as exciting as I would like, okay? So that sums up the things you need to know about Atheus. If you were working on his skills incrementally, I would say that you max the first skill, then unlock and max the second skill. I value Rage Generation probably more than most people will, because I know how good and busted it can be. And you can take him to a maxed out awakened state pretty quickly if you decide that's what you want to do. I went with League of Order as my starting faction. That let me get Waldir, and then I used my Universal Epic tokens to max him out. I got my daily quest rewards for Atheus, and that's how I ultimately built toward his maxed skill level, but then used a bunch of Universals to max that out as well. And that's how I ended up with both Atheus and Waldir as awakened heroes, and I think for epics they have served me extremely well. If you enjoyed this video, throw a like on here and consider subscribing. If you're looking for an overall ranking of heroes, card for that video will be in the end screen. And if you're thinking, Chisgule, this was really cool, but I need more of like a beginner's guide to the game, my ultimate beginner's guide card will be in the end screen in just a second.